need to drink around 43 liters of water. This is a lot of water. So and it's not easy to give these animals all this water. Okay? But we need to try to do it. We need to try to give them as much water as possible. If we don't give them this water, they are not going to perform. And then we have been talking about the stress, the climate, the sow stress, the climate control, trying to reduce a little bit the heat stress of the sow. The temperature is high here, it's difficult for them to eat, to produce milk, so we need to try to do something to reduce a little bit this heat stress. For example, we need to give them a lot of water. This 40 liters of water, we should. But if we are giving them hot water or warm water, they are not going to drink this water. Okay, so we need to try to think how we can avoid, for example, the temperature of the water really be high. Maybe we can cover the lines. We can do some. We can try to think how where the lines, where we put the lines to have them not all the time under the sun, so better under the shadows. Okay, so we need to think about that. If we want them to drink all this water, the water cannot be really, really warm. And then we have a lot of options to refresh them. Okay, we were talking about that exactly this morning. So of course, the ideal, if we can do it, is to have a full climate control system. Okay, with some technologies that can help us to reduce the temperature in the room. But if not, at least maybe we can do something like some kind of showers, some kind of tubes like that, dropping water here in the back of the sow that can refresh them, dropping water systems, the ones that we use for the plants, this dropping that we use for the plants, we could do it, we can put it in the farrowing area, dropping a little bit in the place where we have the sow, okay, trying to refresh her a little bit. But one point that is important here, remember what we have in the farrowing crates, sows and what else? Piglets, okay? So we need to take care about how we refresh the sows, because if all this water is coming down directly to the piglets, okay, the piglets can have a problem, because the piglets, they need much more temperature than the sows. So we need to try to refresh the sow in a way that we are not disturbing the piglets. If not, we will win something with the sow and we will lose a lot with the piglets. So we need to try to find, and we are going to talk about that now, how we design our areas, what we do to really differentiate and be able to do that. Okay, the piglets. So the most important for the piglets in the first hours is to keep their temperature high. Trying to not to let them to lose temperature. The piglets, they lose temperature really, really fast. Sorry, this is in Spanish, but this is, it's just 30 minutes, okay? 60 minutes here, the temperature of the piglets is coming down from 38 degrees until 34 degrees. So the piglet is inside the sow, okay? She farrows, and then the temperature of the piglets is dropping down really, really fast. So we need to take care about how to solve this problem. So we need, the first hours are critical for the piglets, okay? So we need to give them heating. Yesterday we were talking about that. I think Jose Carlos was telling you that as well. So the piglets, they need heat. Sometimes we believe that we are here in Ghana or Nigeria or what, we have like 30 degrees, 35 degrees during the most part of the day. And okay, this is a warm country. We don't need heat or heating for our piglets. But this is not true. In the nights, the temperature go down. In the early morning, the temperature is not so hot. So, okay? And the piglets, they need much more temperature than the ambient temperature that we can have in the night. So it's important to give them what they need. Try to dry them with something, to get them dry as soon as possible, and to give temperature, maybe lamps, or heat lamps, or whatever. I have some examples here, but this is the most important, the first hours. If we don't do that, we are going to have a lot of opportunities to lose these piglets. Okay? And the system, it doesn't need to be so modern. Okay? So we have a really modern systems with nests like this one that is really good. The piglets are inside with a heat lamp, perfect. But then we can do it with boxes as well. Okay? We can have other system to do that. Boxes, and this is here. This is in Ghana. These ones, okay? Okay, this is cold. You need to be careful not to burn the fire, not to burn the farm, okay? But this is here, okay? As well, this one, some nest, okay, where you can put the piglets. Thank you, Mr. Charles. I don't know if you are around here for the pictures, but thank you so much. So we can find the way to really heat our piglets. And then, of course, if we heat them properly, we will have a lot of opportunities for them to take colostrum. And to take colostrum, so we need to help them, okay, to take the teeth. Sometimes they fight, they don't find the teeth, okay, so we need to try to help them to do that. I think it was a video as well. Can you see, please, if this video is no, here. I'm finishing, It's not working? Okay, no problem. Don't worry. So this guy is helping every piglet to go to a teat, okay, and then she's stimulating the teats of the sow, okay, to get the milk going down, to get the colostrum. Without colostrum, okay, the piglet has a lot of opportunities to be dead, okay? So we need to try to give him the colostrum. You see a piglet with colostrum and a piglet without colostrum. You see the colors of the piglets are completely different. One it's okay, the other one is not. Okay, so if we cannot give them colostrum, we have a lot of opportunities to lose these piglets. This is another video. You can see the difference between the piglets that they were before. Okay, these are the ones that were born before. They have taken colostrum, and these ones are the ones that were born later. So they need to take more colostrum because they don't have the temperature that the other ones have. Okay, and just the last point I'm going to finish here is the crib feeding. Okay, we can help as well our piglets to perform better if we give them a good crib feeding. But this crib feeding, again, it has to be a good quality crib feeding, okay, and it has to be fresh. So it's not a matter to give something to the piglets. If we something that we don't know if the digestibility, for example, of this feed, because the piglets, they are really small. I mean, they are growing. The digestibility, so the capacity of the digestive system in the piglets is limited. So we cannot expect them to eat whatever or everything and to perform. If we don't give them something really specific for piglets with a high digestibility, what is going to happen is they are going to get diarrhea, and we are going to have problems later. So we need, okay, this is, we can have modern systems with displays, with really nice feed, with giving different feeds, and then we can do it in a local way. This is as well a farm here where we can find a way to give them grief feeling. And I think I'm going to finish here because, thank you very much. And later we can have questions.
If you're clapping, please clap better. That was a wonderful presentation. I know when it comes to swine management, we cannot get it all. Because even if Javier is able to put all in our head now, it can crush us. But we need to do what? From time to time, visit and ask questions. And that is why we're going to be having question and answer session after now. So to take us in the second presentation, without further ado, I'd like to invite upstage a doctor from Veterinary Service Department of Ghana. On behalf of Veterinary Service Department of Ghana, he'll be talking to us. He's basically from he's the Metropolitan Veterinary Officer, TEMA. And he will be talking to us on African swine fever, management and mitigation of transboundary spread in Africa. Let's welcome Dr. Emmanuel Peku from Veterinary Service Department, Ghana. Keep clapping until it gets to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning. Okay, that's fine. Okay. All protocols observed. Okay, so I'm happy to present on behalf of my director. I'm hoping that in this, probably in the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes, we should be able to go through African swine fever. More especially looking at what is really pertaining in our part of the world. And then, I think we should be able to come to a point whereby we should be able to clear the myth of African swine fever. And then we should be able to know how best we can, as farmers, to be able to control or to prevent African swine fever. Okay, so can I have the slides? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so please, let's, okay. Okay, so as a means of a definition, I would try to, as much as possible, make it very snappy. There are so many definitions when we come to African swine fever. But it's basically the first thing is that it's caused by a virus. Secondly, this virus has affinity. I'm trying my best because they are farmers to be able to speak in a language that probably all of us, but I know they are So, sorry. Okay. So I've said a lot about the reservoir host, which we have the warthogs, the bush pigs, and then the ticks as well. So I'll still emphasize that the virus is present in them, but they may not show signs. So as and when they come in contact with our domestic pigs, or when we go close and then get contaminated, we bring the infection to our farm. And once it comes to our farm, our domestic or our local pigs will definitely have the clinical signs, and it results in high mortality. Good. There are so many viruses. So in general, we have two types. We have the RNA, we have the DNA virus. But this ASF virus is a DNA virus. And it's one of the viruses that is very, very resistant, or is very stable. Most of the DNA viruses are very, very stable in the environment. And in fact, the ASF is one of them that we can never talk about. And then we have about 20 genotypes. We wouldn't want to bore anybody about it. But in Ghana, I think when the typing was done, we had a genotype 1. Most of the outbreak areas, when the typing was done in 2020, we had the genotype 1 affecting almost all the pigs that we had in the country. One key thing is that these are things that you have to, as farmers, we have to know, so that when you are taking any decision, or probably when you are making any choice, you know that this choice will affect you or will affect other farmers. So the first thing is that, in fact, like I said, the virus is very resistant in the environment, or it persists at very low temperatures. So you may have, in fact, the virus is excreted. A lot of it is excreted, for example, in the feces, in the urine, in the blood, and of all the excretions of the affected animal. So it can stay in, let's take it that maybe you've put your dung there from an infected farm. It can stay in it for more than 6 months, and it's comfortable there. The virus is comfortable in your feces and other things that you've packed. They are very comfortable. So once a susceptible host comes, or once you bring new animals, now contamination comes, which we'll know very soon, because definitely you have your farm workers going to these dam sites, or you have other people, or you yourself moving from this place and bringing it to the new stock. So these are the key things that we have to know. And then, yes, even in pork products, it can stay for so many years. There have been cases where these viruses have been isolated even after a year from frozen meat from pork. In fact, one of the key things that really facilitated the introduction of the ASF into Ghana is that we had some fishermen or other people going to other our neighboring countries, and they smuggled these partially smoked meat into the country. And because this resistant virus can stay in this meat, that is how come we had the first outbreaks, and then it had continued, and it's still continuing up to now. So you may smoked your meat partially, thinking that the virus is dead, but the virus is still there, intact, ready to cause disease as and when it gets a susceptible host. So it's also very, very resistant to most disinfectants. So sometimes you have farmers using probably very diluted disinfectant, thinking that they are doing something to prevent the virus. But like I said, it's a double-stranded DNA virus, and it can be very stable. So if you don't get very approved disinfectants, or if you don't do your dilution well, if you don't do your cleaning well, and you think that just spraying will be able to destroy the virus, you are into bad business. It can stay, so high temperatures above 30 minutes, above 70 degrees Celsius can, for consistent 30 minutes, we'll be able to inactivate the virus. And then also we are looking at pH, very low pH, and then so very high alkaline or very high and very low pH also for a period of time will be able to inactivate this virus. So I just put this recommended concentrations of these disinfectants. I think I picked it from the OIE website. And these are things that we have to look at. So the concentration of the chemical is very key. But one thing I'll keep on stressing is that when you are doing your spraying and other things, in fact, cleaning is very key. Cleaning is very key because you need a disinfectant to penetrate through whatever contaminated surface before it will be able to act on the organism. And like I said, they are very stable when it comes to environmental temperatures. Yeah. So someone will ask, how will this virus be facilitated or be introduced into my farm? And these are very key things we cannot take away. So the first thing is uncooked or infected pork products. And the whole story is that whenever there is ASF outbreak, pork products are very cheap because farmers have to dispose of their pigs just to make some money. And through that, you have other people buying them, and then in the process of they preparing the meat, they put some in the garbage, and then we pick them either from restaurants and other places, and then these are fed to our pigs, and then in the process, your flock also gets it. It's one of the key things that happens in ASF outbreak. Okay, I think we'll talk about this. Okay, good. So mortality can range. In fact, when the disease first came to Ghana, for example, we had mortality even approaching about 100%. Most of the pigs that were affected actually died. But along the way, so even as we progress, you understand that there are three categories. We are very acute, subacute, and then and chronic. So it can take as far as several weeks before probably you see the infection, based on the strength of the virus, or what we call the virulence. It will also determine the amount of pigs that will die. So you may have ASF on your farm with just probably 100 pigs, and then you just have about 5 of them dying. So you may think that it may be something else, but possibly it's ASF with having the low virulent form. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's quickly look at the clinical science. I think from my introduction, I've been able to help you to understand how the virus works, and because of that, you may see all the signs. So if nothing at all, the first thing that you may see is high temperature. The animals will isolate itself, so it has a high temperature because, like I explained to you, there's a cytokine storm, or there are some immune cells that are multiplying, or the virus is actually multiplying in them in a very good language. Okay, so in the process, you have blood vessels rupturing. Okay, so in the process, you have high temperature. All viral infections, you may have what we call the viremia. So high temperature is very key. And you see the animals isolating themselves, trying to find cool areas to actually be, because the temperature is high and it needs to cool it. And then secondly, you will see that the animal is not able to eat. But these are pictures I took from a farm about 3 years ago. You have very big animals. So this animal is lying restless. And then you can see the reddening of, it starts from the snout, it moves to the ears and all that. So these are things that you will not miss it. However, there are exceptions to it. So when you see this, these are things that you can say that I'm suspecting. I'm not saying that you have ASF. Please, let's take it. It's a suspicion. Okay, because these are classical signs. However, there are cases where you don't see these signs, but it's still African swine fever. Okay. So you see what we call the diarrhea. In fact, if they are pregnant, most of them will abort. And then, in fact, most of the cases, the virus also multiply in the lungs and all that. All the like I said, the immune cells. So you have a fluid accumulating in the thoracic cavity, okay, or in the chest. So most of the time, there is difficulty in breathing and all that. Yeah. Now, let me just come to the differential diagnosis. So if I say differential diagnosis, what I mean is that there are certain diseases that can look like African swine fever. So the fact that you see these signs, that doesn't mean that you've seen African swine fever. We need to take samples to the lab to confirm. I'll say something here before probably I leave this slide. So we have what we call the hog cholera. In fact, clinically, all the signs that I've talked about, hog cholera is just like that. It's just that hog cholera have not been confirmed so far as I know, in Ghana, we've not confirmed hog cholera. But all the signs are very similar to hog cholera. And then what we call the swine erysipelas. It's also one classical thing that, so it presents the same signs. If you look at what we call the pathological issue, or how the viscerals and other things look like in a dead animal from ASF and all these things, you may not be able to differentiate. That is why it's always good that we take samples to the lab to go and say that, okay, is this, or is this, or is this? Okay. And sometimes poisoning and heavy metal toxins, especially now that we have most of our water bodies being contaminated and all that, you may have poisoning that may present itself. I want to say something here. In 2019, I was working in the lab like a full, like as part of my responsibilities. And we had a lot of samples from an outbreak site. So at that time, we had, we were doing a molecular test where we have a primer, or we can run one test and be able to determine whether it's swine erysipelas, swine salmonellosis, and all that. So we had one test. So if you take one sample, we call it a multiplex. So one sample, we should be able to tell you whether it is this, or this. So in most of the outbreaks, we realized that there were even cases where people thought it was African swine fever, but it was swine salmonellosis. So that is why it is not enough to say that I'm dealing with this without a laboratory confirmation. Okay, I'm trying to say that because of the public health concern, we say that, okay, African swine fever doesn't affect human beings, so sometimes we quickly dress the meat and then we sell and other things. We should know that you may even be dealing with anthrax or something that will even be closer to whatever you are saying. That is why it's always good to seek a professional advice before you go ahead to whatever you want to do. Okay. Now, okay, so risk factors. I think we've talked over this over and over, but I still want to emphasize, because these are the risk factors, or these are things that really lead to the spread of African swine fever in country and even outside the country. So you have feed and feed sources. So where we pick our feed is very critical. I know that most pig farmers, especially in the rural areas, we don't really have well-prepared feed. We try to pick feed from all sources to feed our pigs, and we can't take that one out. And these are very, very key things that really results in the introduction of the virus into our farms and henceforth it spreads to other places as well. Yeah. Okay. So one key thing that also results in introduction of or the risk factors is getting new stock. In fact, as we are speaking now, African swine fever is endemic in the whole sub-region, almost all parts of Africa, in parts of Asia and all that. So getting the stock is also very critical, especially when you have the chronic form. Because the chronic form, the animal may not die much, but he will be probably incubating the disease. So getting a stock is very key. That is why it's always good to do what we call a serological test to know that this stock that I'm picking is a clean stock before even you stock your farm. Okay, and like I said, during our outbreaks, animals are very cheap. So you may have a person, in fact, the recent outbreak that we have in some parts of the East, in Pokwas and other things, someone bought a boa from his home or from a place where the disease had been confirmed. And then through that, the disease was also introduced to a different locality. Good. Yeah. So marketing of pig and pig products, importation of pig products, these are things. So like I said, in Ghana, we had not confirmed the African swine fever till 1999, but our neighbors had confirmed it. So through the introduction of trade, we were able to introduce into the country. And sometimes because our borders are very porous, people pick pig products, especially when they see that it's very cheap and they feel they can make more profit. We intend to smuggle it into the country. That is why it's always very key that anytime you want to introduce an animal, let's make sure that we do the required test before you introduce an animal into your farm. And then the improper and indiscriminate movement. So, yes, these are very classical things. Immediately, there's an outbreak, especially now when compensation is not being paid. Farmers are in a hurry to move their animals from left, right, and to every part of their country. And because of that, because of the movement, your animal in fact, in so many cases, your farm may not be affected, but because of the movement. And the movement is not just the animals, but the human beings. You have farmers that want to visit every farm in his area. And Ghana, because of our, not just Ghana, but I'm talking about the sub-region, because our biosecurity is not so strict, we intend to allow people to our farms, and through that, it's not just the pigs, but the human beings, the human movement. They move from one place to the other, and because of that, they pick the infection from one place and move it to the other. One key thing, okay, so so I think that we've talked about that. One other thing that we have seen that really contributes to the risk of ASF is the disposal. You have farms that in a day, they may lose about, say, 50 big pigs. And in our part of the world, getting even excavators is sometimes very expensive. So these farmers will resort to shallow barren. And like I told you, the virus can stay in especially when it gets a very conducive environment. It can stay in it for about years and for months. And it's still stable. The virus is still there. You may think that you've done disinfection by spraying, but you've not done anything. The virus is still there. So if you watch the trend, most of the time in rainy season, the beginning of the rains, we have ASF springing up in most parts of the country. And that is due to the way we dispose our carcasses when. And you have people even resorting to probably putting them in waste bins and other things. And it happens in the sub-region, not just our country, Ghana. Yeah. Okay. So now, sorry. Okay. What do you do when you have ASF? ASF is a reportable disease, and it's a disease of economic trade importance and all that. So immediately you suspect. Now you've seen some clinical signs of ASF. Probably, if at least if you have a farm and you have 1, 2, 3 dying, quickly let the veterinary personnel be aware, or any animal health authority be aware. So you immediately have to notify the health authority. So in Ghana, for example, we want to make sure that you report to the nearest veterinary office and make sure that we take samples to the lab to confirm whatever is going on your farm. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I think I'm having a little issue with okay. Now, the second thing is ban of movement. I've talked about the risk factors that leads to ASF. So one thing that we normally have to institute is that we normally restrict movement control. And that is the only thing we can do when it comes to ASF, especially when we don't have commercial vaccines now. We have to do our best. In fact, in 1999, when it came to Ghana, plans were far advanced. So the farms that were affected, I remember very well that these farms were depopulated, disinfected. So it stopped the outbreak for a while. So there was laxity in the system, and now you have the whole animal spreading. In fact, I remember I went to a farm as early as 6 a.m., which had classical signs of ASF. The next 2 minutes, from interaction with them, they had already picked some to a different region. So you can expect that within a twinkle of an eye, they've introduced it there. Okay, so these are things that are happening in our parts of the world that is making ASF still persistent in our parts of the world. And it's a threat to the pig industry. And these are things we all have to look at how best we can mitigate it. Control slaughter, and in fact, public education is key. It's very key when it comes to ASF. Like we are doing now, farmers should know how robust this virus is and how best we can all be able to control it. So sometimes when you are telling farmers not to move animals, they feel that you are trying to be hard on them. But remember that it's a pig industry that is being destroyed. And one key thing that we found out in outbreaks is that vehicles are very key, very, very key players when it comes to ASF. Because in marketing, in Africa in general, people that buy pigs from one farm, move to another farm, and all that. Before now, they convey them to wherever they are going to slaughter. So in the process of them moving, and the human beings are moving with them, they will come to your farm, they will enter your pen, and all that. In the process, if they picked one animal that has ASF, and the incubation period is for about maximum 7 days to 14 days. Sorry, maximum 14 days. So it may come to your farm today, he has released the virus, so you may not know. But after 2 weeks, clinical signs will start showing. And that is where you see that now you have ASF. So somebody may go to a farm, he may not see the signs, but they are incubating the disease. Okay. One key thing that needs to be done is field investigation and then routine surveillance. And farmers have to play a key role in reporting cases to us so that we can also take samples and go and confirm. In fact, if you talk about the control measures, the depopulation and killing of affected farms is one of the key things, or one of the best methods we can use to prevent the virus from moving from one area to the other. But because of compensation issues, this is also it's a very difficult thing now to practice in our part of the country. Now, diagnosis. So we have, I think I've already mentioned, we do molecular diagnosis. That's a PCR to be able to confirm whether you are dealing with ASF, whether you are dealing with swine salmonellosis or whether you are dealing with any other thing, you should be able to know when you do your laboratory confirmation. And then we also do what we call the antigen antibody test to be able to know, to be able to confirm if the animals have ASF or not. It will amaze you that a lot of people still feel that ASF. So I just put this myth here about ASF, and it's people still believe that when they have ASF, they can still inject medications, they can still treat it. But the more they treat, the more they cause problem. Because the more the animals stay on your farm, the more they are releasing the viruses, and the more they are contaminating the environment, and the more they are staying in the environment, and the more they are causing problem. Okay, so these are things that we have to know, that ASF as of now has no treatment. Of course, vaccines have far been advanced. We are hoping that after the trials, these vaccines can be deployed so that it will be used to protect our pigs. But you cannot treat ASF. So one key thing that we should all, yes, there is no fear. It doesn't affect human beings. It has not gotten a zoonotic potential. However, is the economic impact. That is why we are so much concerned. The problem it causes livelihoods. I sometimes what amazes me is about the women in the pig industry. What they go through to raise these flocks, and then within just a week or two, this whole thing goes. It's about the economic impact. In fact, if you have ASF, you cannot, the ban on exportation, importation, and exportation of your products, you can't export it to any parts of the world, especially in places where they don't have ASF. Yeah, so I think I'm done. Thank you so much.
Your pen. All right, Mr. Dr. Emmanuel, don't go yet. I'd like to come and sit here. Just come and sit here. I'd like to invite Javier. Also, please, let's jam hands together let's give them a round of applause. That was a wonderful presentation. If you agree with me, give him a round of applause again. Thank you. Now, very quickly, we're just going to move straight into the Q&A. And your question, please, should be particular about what has been talked about now between the two presentations. So as you're asking your question, direct it to whom you want to answer the question. So, how many of us have questions? Questions. When I say questions, I mean questions. Please, don't contribute. Don't do any publicity, just questions. I will take my number from the back. When I get to 10, I'll stop. So pray I count you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Please, if I'm, as soon as, okay, let's come forward. Let's come forward. Let's come forward. Let's come forward. For as many of us who have questions, let's come forward. Come forward. Can't take all. Yeah. So please, we need to be, if anyone asks your question, just do us a favor of going back to sit. So we'll just save time quickly, because as you can see, we're not taking any question again. No. Don't come outside again. Thank you. Okay, one lady. They said I should take you. You're saved.
Good morning. My name is Oswe Free. My concern has been from yesterday. Prof especially insisted on good breed and good feed. And then today, my brother has also continued. I'm new in the industry. how do I get the breed? Are they available in Ghana? How do I get some? Thank you.
How do you do it? You have.
Sir, stay and listen to receive your answer before going back.
I mean, I'm not from Ghana, of course, but how you can get them? You have here genetic companies that they are already working in Ghana, so they can help you to have these breeds, and they can help you to organize. The problem with not the problem with genetics is that it's not just a matter of buying one animal, two animals. So the genetic companies, they can help you to really see what are your needs, okay? What do you need? Because you saw yesterday you have different options in the same genetic company. So they can help you to understand what do you need, to present the alternatives for you, and then they can help you as well to be successful with the animals, okay, that you can get. But you have already here in the country companies where you can get your genetics.
As a starter, join the association and you can get information.
Yeah.
You can't be buying a pig with your farm in Ashanti region. You want to buy a pig from Volta region. When you join, you tell us where you are. We will do as much as possible to locate a good farm around there. One, for you to buy. Two, for you to learn from them. Okay?
Thank you. Very quick. Okay, thank you. My name is Opokula Abi. My question goes to my good man. Yes, talking about ASF. I know in this country, when the pandemic is around, what the veterinary or the agric institution does is, every farm which is close at 500 meters away, as I think I'm right, they will come and slaughter all the animals, but rather they will not test whether they have the infection or not. I want to know why it is so, and for all this while, why is it that the veterinary service is waiting and nothing has been done, no compensation and nothing else? Because when it happens, it discourages the business. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. I think with ASF, I don't remember the last time we did that for pigs, but for poultry. Okay, so let's not miss it. So ASF, as it stands now, there is no compensation package for farms that are affected. Okay, and like I explained to you, the movement is very key. One thing that we are very keen on it when it comes to ASF, and I'll keep on stressing, is the economic impact. The other farms that will also be impacted. Okay, so when your farm, for example, is hit by ASF, now what we do is that ideally your farm is supposed to be zoned, quarantine. No animal moves from your farm to another farm. Okay, but however, you see farmers moving them. So like I said, the first is that for pigs, I don't remember the last time we said we were killing pigs, but for birds, I remember in 2007, 2008, they were doing 8 kilometers radius, because most of the time, once you have the infection within that jurisdiction, epidemiologically, those birds around there will also likely will have the infection. But for pigs, for now, it's about the ban on movements. That's why I try to stress on it, the ban of movement, and then the disinfection, and then the biosecurity measures we try to advise you to adhere to. Those are the key things that we normally do now. Thank you.
Okay.
Abel, let me just add a comment here, because you say that, and we need to be honest in this point. The only way we have had, Spain was positive to African swine fever in 80s. So, and the only way we have been able to eradicate African swine fever is with economic compensation to the farmers. And here, you, and it's your duty, and I'm going to point you now, the associations, so you have the duty to fight with the government, to sit down with the government and try to get this model for the farmers. Because, let's be honest, it's the only way. If my way to survive are my pigs, I'm going to try to survive whatever this happens. So we can tell you, okay, you don't have to do it. And it's true, you shouldn't do it. But if it's your only way to survive, it's really difficult not to do it. It's the only way, and we need to keep fighting and fighting and fighting until we will be able to get this compensation, okay, to kill our pigs.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I would like to hold the mic now.
My name is Kwabran Miako. My question is, with the laboratory test, once the animal is not dead, how do you test for the lab test?
Once the animal is not dead? Oh, wow. So, sorry I didn't show some few pictures. So we have several ways. In fact, we can take blood, we can just take swabs from the nostrils, and then you'll be able to do it. In fact, when assuming the animal is dead, we have tissues, specific tissues that we harvest. So even if your animals are not sick and you still want to do the serological test, we can bleed them and we can do the PCR or the ELISA, which we are able to tell if your animal has it or not. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I would prefer, maybe you will tell us, because in Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Once ASF is reported in any location,
Yeah.
the information is supposed to be transmitted to the area, the veterinary surgeon covering that area.
Yeah.
The level of reportage from that farm to the veterinary hospital, and then they come for assessment.
Yeah.
And it is their responsibility to collect samples, whether taking swabs, taking whatever. The only challenge, which I may not reveal for now, which I want to speak to later, as it affects you as standing in for the veterinary, chief veterinary officer of Ghana, is that how many locations where that test can be confirmed, because it is not the responsibility of the farmer to confirm whether it is ASF or it is not. Theirs is to report and yours is to confirm, so that what should be done. Inch on that is what Xavier responded to earlier on. I'm aware, and I want to believe you are aware too. In OIE regulation, ASF is not one of those diseases that should be compensated for. How are you able to help as our representative, Ghana? You understand? Chief veterinary officer. How are you able to help that our government should make a push such that it will be enlisted the way avian influenza is enlisted to be compensated? Because, like he said, it is the only way that we can arrest or mitigate, if not outright control, of ASF.
Thank you. So, I think in my presentation, I stressed on that for laboratory confirmation is for the vets. You just have to report like Prof is saying. Okay. The other thing I want to say, probably to add up to what you said, is that apart from the compensation, the biosecurity measures are very key. Sometimes the farmers play a very key role. And I believe that awareness creation is one of the key things that we can also do as a country to be able to help. Okay, so in as much as the PIC Association and other bodies also try to advocate, I think that we also as professionals will also do our part in playing that. But at the end of the day, we are all key stakeholders that we have to work together and know that, okay, we have a target of eradicating the ASF. In fact, in bird flu, for example, farmers are being paid compensation, but you still find these farmers still doing what they are not supposed to do. Okay, so compensation alone doesn't solve the problem, but our practices, very key. You tell farmers not to site farms here, they will even go and site the farm before the right authorities are being informed. And all these things are things that we have to look at it as stakeholders to be able to know how best we can curb this menace of ASF.
Let me add something about that because it's important. So when I was, of course, compensation is the only way, but the compensation is not just to get the money and go ahead.
Yeah.
So the compensation, and this is how we did. Okay, the compensation was, of course, to get some money that you were going to earn from your pigs, but then to invest in the things that you have to do in your farm, okay, regarding biosecurity, regarding facilities, so to help the industry or the farmers, okay, to come back in production with all the measures. So you're completely right. I mean, we need that. So the compensations are mandatory, but the compensation, but as well, this money is not just to put the money in your pocket, is to invest in coming back to the system. If you just give the money to put the money in your pocket, it's not working because it will be a lot of
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is George from Tamale. I have two questions, one for infrastructure and one for health. For infrastructure-wise, some of us are practicing IMO. I don't know whether because our facilitators are from the temperate regions, nothing has so far come on IMO. In his presentation, he talked about temperature regulation to help the sows and all that in breeding. How does IMO come in here? Number two, if I go on high biosecurity on my farm, do I need vaccination, especially for the African swine fever? Is there vaccination? If it is, can I rely solely, in your experience, can I rely solely on very high biosecurity on my farm? Thank you.
I think yours first. The first.
The IMO, okay.
What is IMO? Where we use liter. Is
Prof,
yes, where we use liter. We don't do concrete floor for our pigs. We use a deep liter system to help. So how does temperature regulations and all that in the nobody has. The question
Okay, I more or less get it now. Yeah. So okay, I get it. So
please, one house. Thank you.
I don't have to be honest, I don't have a big experience in deep litters, but we have used it sometimes as well in gestation, for example, in some of our farms. And it's true, you're right. I mean, this deep litter, okay, that is there, and is where the piglets are, and when the sow is there, and is peeing there. So it's normally is going to increase a little bit the temperature around. So how we can compensate that? We should compensate that with a little bit of more ventilation. Probably is the only way to try to have some fans, okay, moving the air, okay, to do that. And then trying not to get this deep litter long time, okay? You should be changing this litter as soon as possible, okay?
Okay, thank you so much. So, as it is now, we don't have commercial vaccines for African swine fever, okay? So please, so there is no vaccine now. But so now what we have is ensuring your strict biosecurity measure, okay? Your movement control, disinfection, and all the components are very key for you to be successful when it comes to African swine fever. I can say, let me use the university farms for example. About 3 years ago, in fact, there were African swine fever just close to their farm. But I know they didn't record it, okay? Or because probably they were doing more of movement control, people going in and out there. You don't allow people to go, especially to your production area. It's very, very key. The farm is not just a fanfare for everybody to enter. Okay, so now that is what we have. And that is what we must practice to ensure that we keep the virus from coming into our farm.
Okay, is asking that can they now depend highly on it?
Yes,
on
that is what they have to, because like I said, there's no commercial vaccines now.
Okay.
So that is the only thing we have. It's ensuring your strict biosecurity measure, where you are getting your feed, where the farm is sited, traffic control, people coming in, people coming out, ensuring that you have food dips. All these things are very key components. If you do that, you are free from African swine fever.
Okay. Only one thing about that, because I think it was your professor, you mentioned yesterday about the vaccine of African swine fever vaccine from Vietnam. And maybe we have here Marcio that he's working a lot there. Maybe he can help us. But please take a lot of care with that, because really the trials they have done are not successful. So they have had a big mess using these vaccines. Marcio, maybe you can add something with that.
Marcio?
My experience is that many customers in especially Vietnam and Philippines try and fail. It actually got worse. Yeah. So away from that. The best is experience from Spain. That works. Okay. Follow his advice. Yeah. That's my recommendation. And your advice is perfectly. Yeah. So follow the science. The experiment is not it's not working. It's too dangerous. Okay. Thank you.
1 minute. I'm not speaking. I want him to respond. Can you please respond to this IMO, though the secret of the answer? No, wait. What is the position of the chief veterinary officer of Ghana on the use of the IMO technology of raising pigs with respect to ASF containment?
Okay.
Do you get it?
Yes, I get it.
Because, and maybe he will define the way he practices IMO to you, so that we will now be able to put it in the context. It's very key.
Yeah.
Because if people go with the wrong thing, we would have failed in whatever we are doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, in fact, the IMO system has its own disadvantages and it has a lot of advantages. Like we talked about providing of heat. Let me start from the management aspects. The bedding is already there. So even when piglets are born, at least it provides some sort of a solution and all that. But sometimes the problem comes with the management of the litter. Is very key. And sometimes even where you are getting the bedding or the litter is also very key. So you should make sure that you are getting it from the right source. You should make sure it's being treated well, and especially when it comes to the disposal. I always say that almost all the pig farms I visit, their disposal sites are sometimes at the entrance of the farm. Okay? And these are things that we have to look at because they serve as a source of infection. Okay, so these are very critical things that we all have to look at to ensure that our farms are free from ASF. Yeah. But we'll still talk more, so don't worry. If you have
so please feel free to see them Nicodemously.
Thank you. My name is Princess Nima from Liberia. My question is directed to Dr. Emmanuel.
Yeah. Okay.
You talk about the risk factors associated with the ASF. Yeah. And you mentioned green vegetables given to them.
Yeah.
So, and I do feed my animals with vegetables, become a vegetable farmer. So I want to know what, to explain more about that, what can I do?
Okay. You know one key thing is that you have manure probably moving from pig farms. In Ghana, for example, they use that one, especially from pigs, to fertilize their farms. And like I told you about how stable this virus is, you can contaminate it in the process, especially when it has come first. So we are looking at possible means of introduction into your farm. That is why I think from yesterday we talked about try to get a balanced diet or feed from a clean source. If it resorts to that, and most of the time where they pick the vegetables is at marketplaces where everybody, they add other things. If you look at the picture that I showed, you may not have vegetables alone, you may have some bones in there, you may have other things. And these are what we call the swirl. And it's one of the sources where a lot of farmers get ASF in the process. So our advice, greens are, of course, pigs sometimes feed on, but make sure that it's cooked or it's processed very well. It's coming from a right source. And I don't think it's a problem. But we are talking about the general practice where people resort to that only. And that has been the means where a lot of farms have been gotten ASF. Okay, so do you want to add something?
I think bottom line, making reference to what was said yesterday, don't use ingredients as feeds. Do we get that? No ingredients as feeds.
Yeah. Okay, my name is John. My question goes to Dr. Emmanuel. I wanted to find out that is it possible that the bears that are around can also spread the disease, so that if they can do that, you can advise us what to do about those ones.
Okay, thank you so much. So that is why, apart from the bears, we human beings, you step in a dunk and then you can move it. So they can all serve us. In fact, I remember being in the lab, we kept tissues outside the fridge for several days, and we were able to still isolate the ASF virus. You may underestimate that particular virus, but that is the main reason why it's very stable. So that is why we are still advocating that where you put your dunk, or where you put your waste, very well. That's the word I need. It has to be in a controlled place. You have to either dig, you have to. In fact, I've seen very good pig farms where they make sure that, in fact, waste processing is very key if you want to be free from other bacteria or other viral disease like the ASF we are talking about. So let's make sure that we make plans. Probably our big brother can share a little bit about how waste is being treated in Spain, because in our sub-region, I think that we've not attached more importance. We don't even plan for waste management in our pig farm, but it's very, very key. Because if you expose the waste, these bears will come and then will pick it, especially in infected farms, and then they will also move it to other places as well.
Yes, but just to complete that, but it's true. I mean, the ASF virus is not like PRS virus, mycoplasma virus. So it's a virus that really need to get contact.
Yeah.
It's a virus that really you get it by contact. So just avoiding the contact with infected or possible infected materials that we don't know from where it's coming, this that really let me know is simple. So we will be able to avoid a lot of the spread of the virus.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Caleb, and I would like to ask a question about the ASF. Supposing the ASF hits my farm and I lose my animals, what is the safest way to dispose the dead body? And then for how long can the virus stay within my locality? And then for how long should I wait before I restore my farm? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the first thing is that when you lose your animals and then the whole farm is probably killed or is depopulated, the first thing is that in fact the virus, like I mentioned, it can stay in your feces and other ways for about 6 months, especially if the environment is very conducive. I talked about the pH and the temperature. It can stay there for a very long time. So that is why the safest way, one is, in fact, the digging is very key. Digging about no less than about 6 feet, cover it with appropriate disinfectants, and then you bury. There are other jurisdictions where they burn or they cremate them, but it depends on your facility that you have. But we are doing everything to make sure that the virus is denatured and is exposed to very potent disinfectants or to heat for a period of time to be able to denature them. One key thing about it is that after your farm has been affected, in fact, the cleaning is very key. Apart from the disinfection, cleaning of the farm, because the virus normally contaminates your feeders, your other things, your pens and all that. So if you don't clean with high pressure washing machine into probably holes that you've dug, very deep hole, and then covering it with disinfectant, and you just assume that so I can spray, you have a relapse of it. And the disinfection shouldn't be done once, but OIE recommends that at least you do a minimum of 3 disinfections after the cleaning with appropriate disinfectants. But the farm shouldn't be restocked in not less than 3 months, because you want to allow ample time for your disinfection and then to ensure that you've denatured all the viruses within the place. But one thing I've come to see is that sometimes people clean their farms and they leave their waste outside. And sometimes we do zero disinfection. Yeah.
I think we have. I think we will tell that later. But for example, we have a lot of information right now in 333 website. Is there in pic333.com, so where you can see how stable, what is the stability of the virus in different surfaces.
Yeah.
So, and in that way, you can do a good approach about how your disinfection and cleaning model has to be. So all these things are already studied. So they have studied for a long time, all that. And it's open, so you can take this information and try to know better what you have to do.
Thank you. 1 minute, sir.
You see, in Ghana,